My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast.
And are you all ready for this? Do 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 do.
No, they went through that pun.
I know, but I'm now caramel have perfectly demonstrated tonight that the bread puns have been done, and the bakers have rightfully jumped on it and have went, fuck puns, let's do filk songs, as they're known. They're like, I don't know what the non-folk term is. Parody songs. Parody songs are the way to go. Baking-based parody songs. Do 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 do.
Right. Let's move on.
Oh, God.
Don't you oh God me, Queen of the Pun.
I wonder why I'm here on the podcast with you.
Oh, boy. No, we're not going to keep this going, everybody. It's Bread Week. And look, Bread Week's always a good week, but I'm going to say at the very top of this episode, this might be the best Bread Week they've ever done.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's one of the most solid episodes I've seen in a while.
Yep. I loved it.
Like the other episodes have been...
The only thing I didn't love was the end part, but that's got to happen. So
Yep. The other episodes in this series have been good. Like, there's been no doubt about it. It hasn't been a bad series at all, but this episode was really well done.
Oh, yeah. When someone comes last in a technical because they just put a spice in wrong, and, Matt's reaction when he walks out is like, wow, they all look so good. It's a solid bloody week.
It was brilliant. So, obviously we started with the pre-credits joke was the puns.
Yes.
And it was running through the board. And again, I'd like to imagine this is what they do before every episode.
Yes.
They drag out the board. They're a little bit like, the Julia Roberts gif as well, like all the equations going past their head. But obviously we move into the episode, and Aaron has skirted now a couple of times with using the phrase, this is my week, but he always manages to say something that's not quite there.
But
bread is my jam. See what he did there?
Does that make jam your bread?
That makes jam...
Making jam sandwiches is weird. Because then you...
Jam on jam.
Jam with bread in the middle. Jam on top.
Tea, a drink with jam and bread becomes very weird, doesn't it? Tea, a drink with jam and jam.
Wait till he goes for Devonshire, you see. It's like
that
clotted cream and a slice of bread on top.
That controversial statement from Maggie the other week about which order you put cream and jam.
Yeah.
Again, imagine that, but with, jam and jam.
Okay, first tangent, but it's relevant. This is the whole thing. When I was speaking to my lovely English friends about, why you would ever put the cream on first, comes down to the fact that in the UK, you get clotted cream more often. You barely get it here, and so it's sturdier. It's not going to just melt and soak into your scone. So you can put the cream on first. Not that I'd want to.
And also,
yeah,
we're in Australia, so Maggie's wrong. And I don't ever like saying that about National Treasure Maggie Beer.
Yeah.
But she's wrong.
Look, she's trying to show the people that she is fallible.
I mean, we know that the temperatures inside the butter hoard have to be significantly cooler.
Yeah.
Because how else do you keep a butter hoard?
Precisely. I just don't think cream dares melt in front of Maggie Beer. I think she's...
I think cream quivers in front of her, but it doesn't melt.
It's like, hold yourself together. Hold yourself together. I know it's hot, my cream brothers and sisters, but we must hold together. It's Maggie.
Maggie Beer. She who scares cream solid. Anyway. Look...
I've been cream solid.
Look, we're joking around because we're about to talk about the most disappointing sentence I've heard all season. Hoda, I hate bread, and I mean, after all, it's a waste of calories. Now, first of all, Hoda, how dare you? Second of all, if you're going to besmirch bread, at least borrow the Ed Kavanaugh term of non-delicious filler.
I mean, there are times when bread is, wasted calories, aka non-delicious filler. Like when you go to a place and, they give you the free bread roll. If you're there for a buffet, don't go for the bread roll.
That's the context in which Cavalier uses the term non-delicious filler.
Yeah.
If you are there for a buffet, bread is there to fill you up. Never do that.
Don't do
Also,
that.
don't go for the potato skins. As good as they might be,
fill
they're
you
there
up.
to fill you up.
And make you drink more because they're salty.
And again, you need to go with the cavalry tactic, which is you get some salad and then you just go for the big bowl of bolognese.
I mean, you could... Okay.
Bolognese like a soup.
Yes. If you're at a buffet, you could also do what my lovely nephew did. He's like 21 now. But when he was about 7 or 8, we had to go to the Sizzler near where we live. Because there's a Sizzler near where they lived, but they insisted we had to go to the Sizzler out here. I don't know why. So we went. And my older sister paid for the buffet for, a 7 or 8-year-old. And he disappeared for a good half an hour. And we're like, fuck, he's going to come back like with a solid plate full of food. No, he came back with a plate of half pineapple pieces and half croutons.
That's a dish.
That
Is that pineapple and pizza?
It is only pineapple
deconstructed.
pizza. Deconstructed. It's before his time.
To put some cheese next to it, a bit of tomato. Okay. Now, obviously, we go into the idea of the signature challenge, and what I loved before we got there was they made a joke about Matt and Maggie and role play, and what I found absolutely hilarious was that Maggie laughed, and Matt was like, "What?
Oh
what?"
no!
And then they went to say, and Matt's like, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" And you can see, poor Matt was baffled.
Oh my gosh! Surely Matt's not that much of he can't be. Although he's such a foodie, and that's what he geeks out over. Maybe nothing else around other things are really that interesting to him.
I mean, Maggie got it.
Yeah, she did.
Maggie got it straight away.
Yeah, you should see the closet at Stately Beer Manor.
So, the signature challenge, 12 identical flavoured bread rolls. Now, they had to be savoury. They couldn't be sweet. That was the rule.
No.
They had to be savoury, but they had to be identical. Now, at this stage, we got the first cutaway when they went on your mark to set bake. And, of course, we cut to Haydn, who proves that we have been watching this show far too long and in far too much detail. Because what did we say on last week's podcast?
Oh, Hayden's going to be a baking legend.
It's going to be, when it gets to bread week, it's going to be, that's what Haydn does.
Yep.
Bread. He's going to have, remember we talked about the idea of his sourdough starter is going to actually be sentient?
I was surprised that he did not bring in a sourdough starter, but we did have a visiting sourdough starter.
But again, if his sourdough starter is sentient,
yeah,
you've got a problem in that it was COVID restrictions.
Oh, and 1.5 metre distance, and it
couldn't bring him in.
Couldn't come.
Couldn't bring the sourdough starter, or they. Again, I'm not going to assume the gender of the sourdough starter.
No. I mean, it's all genders because it's yeast based.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll get to it in a minute, but I've got a question around the yeast-based nature of bread, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Now, the other thing that was interesting was we've talked a lot, obviously, about the tour that will eventually happen.
Yes.
Of course, we are referring, of course, to the Listen to Your Bakes.
Listen to your bakes. Come on, we've got to get more singing going. Remember, puns are out, songs are in.
Puns are out, songs are in.
Yeah.
Well, especially in a Haydn Star Bakeoff.
Oh, absolutely.
But we've obviously got, Val from British. And then you got Noel.
Noel from Tassie.
Yes. Obviously, from Australian Bakeoff. And then if you go over to Canada...
Canadian land.
Well, I mean, Jude listens to her bakes.
Oh, doesn't she just? Listens, photographs them. She does all things.
And now...
Whimsical things.
And now, Aaron.
Aaron. He's bringing some youth. He's bringing the youth.
Look, we need someone to draw in the youth. Someone needs to draw the youth on this tour, because this tour is getting very old very fast.
He's going to introduce them to TikTok.
No. You know what? Say what you want, but Jude would be a sensation. And hey, Jude, by the way, because she's probably listening, because she does listen all the time. So hey, Jude. Now, Aaron listens to his bread. He listens to the yeast. He listens to everything. Obviously, the yeast is like, not ready yet. Give us 5.
Yeah.
Then they cut to Haydn, who again was the happiest person you've seen in a very long time.
Yeah.
Now, this was the start of a bit of a runner that I'd like to call Haydn Kidnaps the Cameraman. And I feel like Haydn in this episode was the 5-year-old who finally knows all the information about something. Yes. And it's like, and then what we're going to do is we've got the bread. And what we're going to do, no, you got to watch me. You got to watch me.
So you're talking 5-year-old, and I'm thinking he's like that that cool TV show that teaches science to kids.
Curiosity.
Like, yes, he's the dean and what's his facey.
He's the dean and bearded fellow. I can never remember the name of.
The not George Negus, as
not
I
George
keep
Negus.
thinking it is.
I love the idea that you thought that George Negus was on the Curiosity show.
I was young. At a very young age, I thought Darren Hinch was my dad.
By that point of the Curiosity show, George Negus was on Foreign Correspondent, which is
doing
quite a
both.
crossover.
He could have been reporting on the Middle East then going off to teach kids science.
Here from war-torn Gaza. How do you make sure an egg doesn't break when you throw it over a wall? Anyway, moving on. Rapidly moving on.
Yes.
Haydn was making cheesy bread rolls. Now he was using the Tenjong, obviously, and that's
Tenjong
again.
method.
So you've
Becoming
got
quite popular. Is that going to go into your matcha list? Are you just going to become anti-Tenjong as well? It's being used too much.
No, I'm pro that.
Okay, he's pro Tenjong.
There's technique involved.
Okay.
There's no technique involved in sprinkling matcha on things. Then you've also got, he put camembert in there and then a bit of vintage cheese to balance the camembert.
I am a camembert over brie person.
You are indeed.
I love both, don't get me wrong. But if you offer me a good camembert, I will take that over a good brie. But then if you're offering me both, I'll just fucking take both. Like, I'm not going to choose.
No, you're not.
It's just cheese.
No, exactly. And I love it when Matt came over and he's like, you look so excited and so happy. And he goes, well, it's nice to know what you're doing for a change.
Yes. And Haydn knows how to please us with two kinds of cheeses.
Now, those Canadian Bakeoff fans out there, when they cut to Ella, you should have automatically worked out what she was doing.
Oh, Holly, yeah.
Yeah, she is a hollaback girl.
Remember puns.
We've done this whole thing because we've called an episode Hollaback Girl before.
Yeah, wait.
But, you know, it's her shit. It's her shit. So, za'atar.
Yeah.
And hummus. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of za'atar this week. I'm wondering if it was on special. But I love that she goes, this is normally a 5-hour bake.
Yeah.
And they're like, and you're doing it too. And she's like, we'll see what happens.
Well, I presume she's making like a big challah. Like, this is just...
These are bread rolls.
Little challah.
Little challah.
It's
just a high.
It's just a high.
It's not a challah. It's a high.
It's a ha. Or a la.
Now, Nerman decided to do garlic bread, but he decided to do special garlic bread. Black garlic bread.
Well, he was going all black. Like, he was either like going, I'm really a Kiwi, or just going goth. It's Nerman's goth phase.
I love the idea that Nerman's goth phase involves garlic bread.
Well, yeah, because he's afraid of vampires. Now, he used a lot of garlic bread through
He was very worried about vampires the whole way through.
And I have to think, like, in his steampunk adventures, is part of his steampunk adventures, like, is he a vampire hunter as well? Because he's a doctor. Is he actually a long descendant of the Van Helsings?
I mean, look, if there was one thing you were going to
find...
Is
it Nerman Van Helsing?
I mean, look, I think if you were to enter his hot air balloon...
Yeah.
Which he travels around in, and we know it's just out the back of the shed.
Yeah.
I'm sure a wooden stake would be found.
I reckon he has like a secret compartment that when he's going over, like, say, like Transylvania, although I think that's a bit too, like, on the nose. I think he'd be going to, like...
Sylvania waters.
No, he'd be going to the Arctic Circle in winter because that's, vampires are vacationing up there at that time. And... he'd just be like, have this like secret compartment. He like kicks it with his like steampunk boot, and out comes all this like Tommy gun, but it shoots like steampunk bloody stakes into vampires below.
I love how we've now got Nerman building his own, well, basically the equivalency of a hot air tank.
Yeah,
hot air vampire tanks.
Fuck yeah. It's just, there's the graphic novel.
No, Nerman, can we go for a tour in your hot air tank?
Hot air vampire killing tank.
Anyways, he said black bread is where it's at. Apparently it was squid ink, and then it was 3 different forms of garlic. It was a garlic powder, it was garlic paste, and it was raw garlic. And even I'm going, and you know me and my garlic, and I'm going...
You're like, 3 cloves is never enough.
I mean, that's a lot. So, at which point, Mel's talking to Aaron about are you a bit jealous of Nerman's moustache? Are we going to have a bit of a moustache off?
And Aaron's just like, I can't
compete
with that.
Who can compete?
No.
I mean, apart from apparently Mel's mum.
Nan,
sorry.
Nan. Sorry, Mel's mum.
Yeah, I would never want you to compete in that. You know, you're far too busy competing in other areas. So, only one area per relative, it turns out. Now, Blessing also said, they cut to Blessing, who talks about the fact that her father was actually a bread baker. So
that's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
And again, I love it. He's a baker. No, he bakes bread.
Yeah.
That's what he does. Now, Nav. Now, we did notice, and you commented on this at the very start of the episode, which is everybody reached for, all the stuff to start doing
like
bread.
Everyone's going for the mixer or, and everyone
Nav,
was going for mixers, and Nav whips out a fucking pressure cooker. And I've looked at you and gone, why's Nav got a pressure cooker? And we find out.
And then we found out why Nav had a pressure cooker. Okay, so Nav gets bonus points this week. Now, we talked a little bit about, in previous weeks, the bakers aren't really so far playing to the judges.
No.
Well, Nav decided that Moran Lamb was the way to play to a judge this week.
Oh, look, Nav, I can see a bloody invitation coming to you to the Moran farm. You'll have to give Matt the bloody recipe, but I'm sure you walk out of there with a sweet, sweet lamb. Moran lamb pack.
I mean, I do hope you get to travel.
Do you think he just has Moran lamb meat trays?
I hope so.
Like he invites a group of people over
and
to
runs a raffle. Runs a raffle. Now, I mean, we have seen the farm before.
Yeah.
If you've seen Anthony Bourdain's trip to Australia, he does go to the Moran Lamb farm, and it's one of my favourite things because they sent him in this rickety little Cessna. And there was a storm, and it was just buffering. You could just see Anthony Bourdain with his look on his face like, what am I doing in a Cessna on my way to a shed to eat some lamb?
Yeah.
But again, Moran Lamb, worth it. And again, plays to the strength.
Look, of all the shit that Bourdain's done, for his TV shows and stuff, that's got to be the least.
It is.
Crazy.
Now, what Nav was making, though, is one of a couple of bakes where I just looked at you and I went, I require this.
Yeah.
Now, I really require this. So it was the Afghani lamb rolls. Lamb, onions, and coriander.
Now, Matt Moran is going to be, gifting Nav Moran lamb to, get that recipe. What are you going to be gifting him?
My wit.
Okay, that's a fair call.
That's a fair call, thank you.
That's a fair swap,
I believe so.
Your wit is as tasty as Moran lamb.
Indeed it is. So, Blessing. Now, we have to have a conversation here. She said she was making vegan herb twists with pesto. Now, the question I've asked you...
Yeah.
Can this bread be vegan if we're using yeast?
Look, my main gripe with vegans is that you eat plants which are actually they're living beings, and we've proven they talk to each other, they have feelings and stuff too. And so you go up a level to this single-celled organism, this little yeast, living its business, living its best life, reproducing like it's going out of fashion. Big yeast orgy in a bowl. Off they come, throw in some flour, ooh, food. And then suddenly it starts getting hot in here. And they take off all their clothes. But unlike Nelly, it doesn't go cool, as in... They just die.
It's not a little bit of or a little bit of
It's a little bit of crunch. Tasty.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, look, I think there's a problem. There's a problem there, obviously, in that vegan, if you're using yeast, it can't really be vegan. Also, along the lines of The Simpsons, I like the idea that veganism should be veganism level 4, level 5. Don't do anything that casts a shadow.
Yeah, like an aeritarian.
Exactly, breathitarian.
Breathitarian, whatever they are.
Breathitarian is fantastic. Everyone, breathitarian diet, wave of the future. Anyway.
Wave of the future.
Don't do that. Vegan garlic butter, which is not butter. So don't call it that.
It's nut paste.
It's vegan garlic nut paste. Yep, you're right.
Nut mush.
Now, Matt and Maggie were a bit terrified by the black truffle oil. Now, this is something that I wasn't aware of. Is that black truffle oil is not actually made of truffles. It's a perfume.
Well, as I learnt and I think you watched this episode recently of the Jonathan Van Ness, the
Yes, I did.
Yeah, the JVN show, what's it called? Getting Curious, is that flavour, most of it is smells. So, while it might be a perfume, it still flavours it because it's a perfume.
But the problem is then it gets very heavy, especially with black truffle oil.
So
it's very hard to balance.
technically, you could throw some CK1 in your bakes.
Who would?
and taste like the 90s.
Now, we're going to cut to Carmel. Now, before we cut to Carmel to have a conversation around what she was making and all the things she was baking and all those things.
We've got more pressing issues.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for a bunny update. Obviously last week we asked a question on the podcast, which was, can bunnies be desexed?
Now, I want to call this segment, what's up, Carmel? Because it's a bunny.
Yeah. What's up, Carmel? And the answer is that Coco and Ponchi are both desexed.
Woo!
So, by the way, Coco is named after Khloe Kardashian.
Okay, all right.
And Ponchi is named after Eric Estrada's character from Chips.
That is wonderful, Carmel, because he's the reason my mum got to the hospital without having noticed her water breaking or anything and gave birth to me like 5 minutes after she arrived at the hospital because she was staying back to watch Chips.
Because Eric Estrada was a piece of tail. Anyway, so there we are, sunrise, sunset. There will be another instalment, by the way, of questions coming later on, Carmel, so just keep listening because we've got some more things to ask you.
Yes.
It can be one a week.
Curious bunnies want to know.
Yes, curious bunnies do want to know. And that was, what's up, Carmel? So Carmel was chopping olives and she was like, I don't want to give them a stone. I want to make sure I cut it all properly.
Here's Carmel going Australia on us because she's like, if I find a pit in there, it's bad luck. It's bad luck.
And then she's like, good luck! As she makes her olive and feta paninis.
Yum.
Yeah, you were definitely there for that.
I was here for all of Carmel's bakes tonight.
Now, the only thing distracted you was they then did the brief cutaway to Mel for a minute while she started the call, and you were like, "What's Claire doing? Is she meditating?"
Yeah, she's just sitting outside.
At which point they cut back to Mel, who looks down the barrel of the camera and goes, "I'm just leaving Claire outside and proving her for a bit to see if she doubles in size."
You've got the notes. Was it this bake or the next bake where Mel was asking who's Blessing's best friends?
So, coming up.
Okay, it's coming up. All right.
Coming up.
Forward sizzle there, people.
Forward sizzle. Aaron then did what he called his babka ganoush.
Yeah.
Which was just a play on the word baba ganoush.
But it had baba ganoush in it, which is
exactly.
I'm here for it.
And more za'atar.
Yum.
More za'atar.
More za'atar.
Now
it needs more za'atar.
Now we talk a lot about
like cowbell.
Now we talk a lot about pivoting, and we talk a lot about pivoting, and the idea that you should pivot.
Will Ferrell visiting the shed needs more za'atar.
The idea that pivoting is required at certain points during a bake, and look, I think Ash had the chance to do that. She was making the tomato pretzels.
Yeah.
Sun-dried tomato filling made to look like the sun-dried heirloom tomatoes using string. And the idea was the string was going to disintegrate away, leaving it just the pattern on it. Now, she could have pivoted and gone with pumpkin. Because by the end, they look a little bit more like pumpkins than they did heirloom tomatoes.
No, but if you look at heirloom tomatoes, they do have that awkward shape and that nice pressed in shape, and that's what like seeing Maggie Beer's face when she was talking about it. Maggie knows heirloom tomatoes. They're beautifully ugly, if that makes sense. Like beautiful.
And then they cut back to Haydn again because we were cutting back to Haydn because he had the cameraman. Damn it!
Yes,
cut back to Haydn.
Sumner Haydn.
Haydn is still explaining how baking works, and he's still explaining the bread rolls. And it was what I appreciate, and I genuinely loved this about Hayden's week.
Yeah.
Halfway through the first bake was when Haydn went, it's far too early to say the word star baker. I don't think I'll be star baker. That would be crazy. But I'm not going to be eliminated, and that's the important thing. Aww. And he's like, but the way he's like, it's far too early for star baker. No, stop it. No, you stop it.
And
I'm like, I'm looking at him going, I don't know if they actually said you'd be star baker. And they cut to you, he's like, it's too early for star baker.
He just had that that. Look, we all have those times when you just know you've got this. Like, there are times when you're just like, I'm the fucking... And you can't say it's my week because you'll get fucking your ass kicked by the Bakeoff gods. But there are times when you are the MVP of the situation, and you've just got to let it play out and let people come to Jesus.
Now Hoda admitted early on that she doesn't like bread, doesn't like baking it, doesn't like eating it. Again, the useless carbs, which is again, how dare you? But she was then announcing that she was sacrificing the second proof for time.
Does that mean she finds biscuits and cake useful carbs?
She must.
Does she make sandwiches out of cakes? Like, does she fuck bread, I'm just going to have my
biscuit
salad
sandwiches.
bowl, slap between two Tim Tams. Just...
I mean, that's carbs, and that's useful carbs.
Yeah. Like dessert and lunch in one. It's your afternoon tea break and your luncheon break, which Hoda might need if she has a busy job. She might not get an afternoon tea break.
Now, Hoda was making...
Hoda, I get you.
Now, Hoda was making sireki rolls with mastic and nigella seeds.
Oh, I'm here for that. Mastic is also known as tears of chaos. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
Oh, because you're a history teacher and would know that it was a product of chaos, the island. Okay, and I'm just a Greco-Roman, Hellenistic inclined pagan. So, yeah, there we go. All right, move along. I was trying to be...
You were. It was good.
I got an interesting... I'm like Haydn splains, but Kristie splains, and it just... Not as cool.
But you've got the cameraman now, so,
Yeah. Just Haydn has the cameraman on a leash, just following him around. No. This is my audition for the kids show.
I'd like to think that there's just footage and Haydn picked the camera up at the end of day one and took it back to the apartment and was still going.
He's bringing out the bottle and egg and about to do the Julius Sumner Miller. Why is it so?
Ordered pizza in lockdown to the room and then broke down the crust in great detail.
Yes.
And then we go to Jawin. Now, Jawin, speaking of bakes that I want to eat now, Jawin's Laotian sausage rolls, pork floss, lemongrass and curry paste.
That's just
I need these.
These are two separate words, pork and floss, right? Now, you think pork, you're just get it on your fork like the ads, blah, blah, blah. You think floss, you're either in your teeth or fairy floss and stuff.
Or desi.
Or flossing, yeah. You put them together and suddenly this magical thing appears, and I am so here for it. And thank you for bringing this into our lives, Jawin, because, if I could go to the Easter show and just get myself a stick of pork floss, which I'm sure you can. They put everything else on a stick there.
I would very much, I'd very much be a fan of that. I'm very much here for it. So we then move on, obviously, to Nerman.
Yes.
Now, we haven't seen a lot of Nerman at this point.
No, he's back in black.
But the problem is, this is the problem, was he pulled them out, and because they're black, you can't tell the quality of the bake.
Now you got to tap
so
it.
he pulled them out, he listens to it, he goes, oh, I'm going to have to sacrifice you for the greater good. He breaks one open, and you see him go, that's under. And he just grabs the tray and throws it at the oven. Followed by, again, Ash, who gets him out and goes, oh, these are not good. They've puffed up far too much. Oh, the string's still there. Oh, and they're 3 minutes. You're oh,
well, gotta go.
That's it. They're going.
Gotta do it.
Now, at this point, they also cut to Hoda, who goes, whose buns are already out? Cut to Haydn.
Of course.
So it was an instant. Hoda's rushing around going, whose buns are out? And they just cut to Haydn, who's very calmly standing there with all the buns in front of him going, well, I'm done. What's wrong with the rest of you? The judging. Haydn, they said they looked very good. Maggie was very excited by the cheese. She did, in fact, make a Maggie sound.
She did. She was quite happy. She's like, you could have left the skin off. And I agree. Sometimes, you don't need the camembert skin. You can just have that as a side snack. Could have helped yourself there, Haydn?
Exactly.
Side snack?
But as I said, the dough was great and the balance was really good. Blessings, they said it was very fluffy inside, but they said you couldn't pick a lot of the flavours out. And the reason was the pesto overpowered everything.
Yeah, and the yeast funerals were still continuing.
But they did say the dough was quite good.
Yes.
Jawin's looked inviting. They said the pork was really good and the lemongrass lifted everything and the eating was really good. Ella's were uniform, and then you got a bloody good from Matt, but that was followed by that the dough was a little bit tight. in the mixture.
Wait.
Nerman's were identical. They did say the garlic was very strong. You saw them bite it, and whoo!
And he's like, do you see any vampires anywhere, Maggie? No. Thank you. You're welcome.
But Maggie did again say that his dough was very good. Ash, they said the colour of the bake was really and it was really lovely. The twine didn't vanish. They said they were slightly overproved, but very good in flavour.
Yeah. And just imagine, like she's bound to have made those again, and they've probably come out looking friggin' stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hoda. Now, they said it pulled apart really well, and the flavour was quite delicate.
Yeah.
Aaron had good crunch and a very soft balance as well. Great flavour, but they did say that they were a bit worried that it was too baba ganoush forward, basically.
It's like, bread's good, baba ganoush, too much.
Yeah, too much baba ganoush. Caramel, they said, they had a very good crust. The saltiness and the rosemary balance was very good. And Nav's looked like a croissant. The flavour was really good. The lamb was excellent, as was the coriander. And they said that you could just see, like, Matt's like, I got a bit more lamb than you. And then when they bit into it, he's like, that's amazing. And Maggie's like, first of all, it's a lamb farmer, and second of all, it's a chef. I mean... Yeah. So, after the first bake...
I really thought Nav was on track.
I think that Nav had a near-perfect week, which he needed to have after his last couple.
Yeah.
And this was a very good start for it. But again... Everyone played really well in this first round.
Look,
everyone.
There was, we're splitting hairs, Oh, Ella's was a little too tight. Like, it's not like, it's like, oh, you only got 11 buns up and they were, like, misshapen and stuff. It wasn't a complete disaster. Everything was lovely.
This gets us to the technical. So, it's a matte technical.
Yes.
And again...
You know what the first was?
What?
No non-delicious fillers there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
moving on.
Matt's technical. Another one of those bakes where I went, I need this in my life.
Yep.
And especially after they baked it, I could quite easily just eat an entire loaf by myself.
Yeah.
So the matte cryptics they gave him, prove it to me. You need to get on a roll.
Oh yeah. Now, I think this is a recipe he got from one of his colleagues.
Yep.
From Sweden. I believe he's the Swedish chef.
Björnberg! I mean, that's always my favourite. I mean, if your favourite Swedish chef moment is not him throwing meatballs in the air, hitting them with a tennis racket, yelling out, Björnberg! I don't know what you're doing. So it's my favourite moment, and what I really love about it too is that for generations now people are going Björn Borg and eating it, not knowing that he's saying Bjorn Borg. So it was a Swedish cinnamon and cardamom bread, which I believe you can buy at IKEA. Yeah. In all likelihood, yes, you probably can. 2 hours to do it. Now I love Jawin because he's like, I've heard all those words. I've heard Swedish. I've heard cinnamon. I've heard cardamom. I've heard bread. Just not together. At which point, they cut to Carmel and everyone tries to pronounce the bread. And Carmel's like, gives a go and goes, I think that's how Abba would do it.
Look, I'm with you, Carmel. As a language and accent expert, it's the way to roll,
As the queen of accenting, yes.
As the queen of accenting,
Now, the way to pronounce it, I believe, Kneldling.
Kneldling.
Again, the IKEA dining room.
Oh yes,
tons of those.
Yes,
with the meatballs.
Do you want it in the shade of cardamom or the shade of cinnamon?
Well, you want it in the shade of cardamom, unless. So let's talk about that.
So they said, no, give it to me in cinnamon.
Hoda's like, no. So the dough and the roll were the pressure points, and they said that the balance with the spices was critical. And I love that they cut to Aaron, who's very confident. He goes, well, I love the technicals. This is all stuff I should know. There's a pause for 2 seconds. He goes, wait, I messed up. Perfect timing. Yep. Like, absolutely perfect timing.
Beautiful.
Now,
again, it's written by Mike Scher, that line.
Now, the recipe was cardamom in the dough, and cinnamon, obviously, is the filling. Mm-hmm. Don't forget that.
No.
Vital.
Yeah.
Now, after that first round, obviously, in the first bake where they went to blessing, where Mel goes up to blessing and goes, who's your favourite? And it goes, oh, Nerman. And in a second, and it goes, I haven't had me yet. She goes up to Nav, leans on the counter, and just goes, hey, Nav. Yeah. Who's your best friend in the shed? And Nav just looks her dead in the eye and just goes, well, it's got to be Claire.
Nice.
And it was so beautifully played. Yeah. Like, it was so well done. One of the things I think this typifies in this episode is that I think the Bakers have finally relaxed into the shed.
Yep.
And I think what we saw tonight was a lot of that. A lot of those jokes hitting more. They were making a lot more jokes. I mean, Hoda has a couple of really bad runs at puns later on. Yeah. I like that they're comfortable.
It's one of the things, like, this moment where everyone just kind of just clicks into place, you know, in that comfort, but in that supportive, comfort, happy place that we get to in Bakeoff. This is what I think has started to become missing from British.
Yep.
Because we get it in Canadian, we get it in Australian, I'm sure we get it in New Zealand. Someone will be able to tell us that.
Yeah, someone who watches that will tell us.
Possibly not South Africa, but, you know.
No, they're looking for help.
Yeah.
Literally the help.
Literally the help. But it's one of those things I just don't think they get to a point where everyone's comfy, happy.
No, I don't think anyone in British is comfortable at any point in that show. And I think they haven't
been for a while.
And I think they've gone out of their way in British to make Paul Hollywood scary. Yeah. Which ruins the feeling of the show, which is that it's nice.
And it takes away from his gravitas because he is a really knowledgeable font of knowledge. And this is what I love with the portrayal of Matt, and something that I think more people should pay attention to is his knowledge of baking that comes through, and, you know, how he's an authority figure without being judge, jury, and executioner.
Yeah, he's able to have enough authority and gravitas in there that what he says people take very seriously and want to impress him.
Yeah. But
at the same time, it's not a fear. It's wanting to impress somebody who is highly skilled and very knowledgeable.
And it's like I think it would take a lot to anger Maggie. And I think Maggie would be more angered by, like, injustice than, you know, things that could possibly go wrong in what's being served to her.
Oh, completely. I mean, look, she eats chili and copes with it.
You know. Like, I think you'd have to do something pretty...
She ate bubblegum a couple of seasons ago.
That's true, you know, to really anger Maggie. And, you know, but people want to please her and respect her and stuff. So it's just, yeah. I just want British to get its love back. Where's the heart?
So what they could do is they could probably dedicate a significant portion of a British episode to heating milk, because we did that here, but it was a reason, because this was actually the crux of what they were doing, because it was about activating the yeast or leaving it dormant.
Yes.
So
or boiling it to death.
Yeah. So you would either activate it and make it all work, deactivate it. By boiling the living hell out of it.
Yeah.
Or dormant. Doesn't come back. Now,
like 39 degrees, you know.
39 degrees.
It's a beautiful sunny day.
It's a lovely tropical day in paradise.
Yeah, you know, everyone's out on holidays.
50 odd degrees. You're probably
scorched earth.
You're probably in Jawin's bowl.
He is climate change.
Jawin was climate change in this episode.
He was the fossil fuel industry.
Jawin was reflecting the role of the fossil fuel industry and what it does to all of us by killing that yeast.
Yeah, just making it untenable. The environment.
Showing the world what happens if you raise just a couple of degrees from the optimal.
Yep.
You are going to kill
decimate
the yeast.
And, you know, in a broader sense, aren't we all the yeast?
Indeed. Aren't we all on this planet the yeast? Now, what I did also find here was they then cut to Hoda. And Hoda came up with a completely different way to kill things.
Cinnamon. She's like...
She's doing the cinnamon challenge?
She's doing the cinnamon challenge. She wants to be the 6th Spice Girl.
Cinnamon, that's her name.
Yeah.
So she pours the cinnamon into the dough, not into the filling, and decided she was sticking with it. She goes, "Oh, why does my dough look brown? Oh, I added cinnamon to the dough."
There are times in Bake-Off where you need to lean into the mistakes and just own it. And there are times when you need to go, you know what, let's put a pin in this and move on.
Cards are going to fall where they may.
Yeah.
Aaron added too much flour, but luckily that was one that he could resolve.
Yeah.
Then they cut to Nerman, who's like, this is serious. The hat's come off.
Oh.
Also, Nerman with like sleeveless today. It was like Nerman goes
Sun's
Thunderdome.
Out. Yeah, it's like sun's behind the thing, guns out. I guess he's like, if the sun's out, he doesn't have to like show that he's strong and cranky and can take down a vampire because like the vampires won't go out in the sun.
No, exactly.
But when it's overcast, there's a chance you could have these vampires that, could walk around.
Got to be ready.
He's got to be ready. He's got to be action ready.
So,
do you think, though, that the hat off being serious, though, is a bad sign for his patients? Like, they're going to get their test results.
They're going.
Hey, no, hats on, it's okay, hats off.
What happens if it's a really outlandish hat? Is that good news or really bad news?
I presume he saves that for, like, confirming you're pregnant or whatever. Like, just, like, really crazy, happy, fun times.
What, a hat with, like, a doll on the top of it and a cradle?
Yes. He's got different hats and different occasions.
Look, point to the hat.
Yes.
Look what we're telling you.
There's one, like, with, like, just, like, clear tubes on it. He's like, your cholesterol's fine.
I love the idea of Nerman's doctor's practice just being governed by hats.
Because, when you usually go into, like, doctor's offices, they have, like, the medical sculptures and stuff. Like, there might be the sculpture of the heart and whatever else. The anatomical sculpture. Yeah. No, he's just an array of hats.
It's a hat rack.
It's a hat rack.
You go into Nerman's surgery, it's a hat rack. He reads your file and reaches over to the rack.
And you're looking
produces a hat. Don't pick up the tombstone. Don't pick up the tombstone.
Yes.
And he picks up the tombstone. You're like, oh my God. And he's like, no, what I'm wearing this hat for is, it's a great film. Go watch it sometime. I love a Western. Anyway, moving on.
Moving right along.
Because Aaron was struggling with the dough and was like, I'm not going to get this. There's no way I'm going to get this proved. I'm just going to have to rush this. And then it started raining. And we all know, especially in bread weeks, that the rain and the humidity plays absolute havoc with the
proofing,
dough.
Yeah.
At which point they cut to Claire and Mel doing their own ABBA joke.
Can you imagine the outtakes? There's got to be so much
ABBA
ABBA work.
It was basically an outtake anyway, because Claire could not keep a straight face. She was like, nah. She got through her line, and then Mel starts her line, and just Claire is just dying at this point of laughter.
Do you think they had to keep Haydn talking about bread because he'd just break out into Mamma Mia songs?
Yeah, so he goes to start singing, He goes to replicate who's Pierce Brosnan's in that film, isn't he?
Yeah.
Goes to replicate Pierce Brosnan, except he can sing unlike Pierce Brosnan. And they're like, no, we can't afford the full rights to Mamma Mia. So Haydn, you're gonna need to stop that.
He whacks on some overalls and suddenly he's Meryl Streep.
Hayden, can you sing something that's maybe copyright free?
He goes, hold on, I've got this great song. I'll save it for the next round.
He will indeed.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, that was Jawin.
Well, they all got involved.
They did.
So we need to have a very quick conversation. There's two conversations that have to happen here.
Yeah.
The first one is, I said this last week, but
You did.
I bear repeating.
I presume so.
Stop helping each other
Oh, God.
on the technical.
No, keep helping each other. Keep using matcha. Keep helping each other. Just make Chris rant.
Why are you determined to ruin my life?
I don't ruin your life. Your choice to hate matcha and people helping each other, ooh, that's ruining your life.
They can help me.
Oh no, they're helping each other.
It's a technical.
So it doesn't matter with the outcomes. I mean, they didn't help Hoda when she needed it, did they? They didn't go Hoda like cinnamon doll. Just restart that. They were just helping with the snipping.
By that point, it was impossible to help Hoda with hers. The cinnamon was well and truly embedded.
Yeah.
They looked at it and just went, "Well, I've done all I can." I would like to have actually seen her just mold it into a cinnamon person at this point. Cinnamon girl.
Oh my God. Oh, some cinnamon crunch.
I wonder.
One great big donut.
I wonder if during this episode, legitimate question.
Yeah.
I wonder if during this episode,
Yeah.
the production in particular had to be very careful every time they tried to make a reference that involved a song title, because Haydn was having such a good week.
Oh, yeah.
That all he wanted to do every time that happened was burst into song. So they're like, oh, well, look at the colour of Hoda's dough. Look, she could just make a cinnamon girl. And suddenly I was like, I want to live with a cinnamon girl. I was like, Hayden, stop it. Hayden, no.
Inside voice.
It's no longer
Inside
on Spotify. It's no longer on Spotify.
Can't get that on Spotify
anyway, go to Apple Music. Secondly,
yes,
it's time for everybody's favourite segment, folks. It's time...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's
up, Carmel? So, Carmel revealed to Claire that she FaceTimes the bunnies.
Yeah, and that's not strange, considering someone I know who will, like, FaceTime his cat if he's away for a while. So...
She doesn't have a phone, and that leads me to the question.
Yeah?
Carmel, what plan/phone combo are the bunnies on?
Yeah.
Which provider are you with for the bunnies? Asking for someone with cats. And
which one has the best screen that's usable by paws?
yeah, I mean, look, which plan do the bunnies find to be the best for their budget? I mean, what is a bunny budget for a plan?
I presume it's like a 10-carat budget?
Oh.
24-carat budget?
But a 24-carat budget is expensive.
Yeah.
That's a very expensive budget.
That's all you can eat Apple phones.
So again, if you can help us out with this, we'd really appreciate the assistance. Because obviously we're very keen to understand what form the phone plan takes.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's a good rate. So moving forward, we cut from bunny conversations to an Aaron death drop.
Whoa, dude, I keep, every time I hear Mel or Claire say, good luck, and I always finish with the RuPaul's and don't fuck it up, and here we have a death drop. So
I feel like there's some secret skills going on here.
Yeah, there's got to be a fashion show at lunch. Just a bit of voguing, a bit of ballroom going on.
And the chanting has to be going all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Fashion show at lunch. Anyway, at this point again, it started raining again, and we got Marge, the rains are here. Yeah. At which point, once again, Nervin burnt some of his. Of course, I mean, he had a day. He was underbaking the first one.
Yeah.
He burnt some of his roll in the second one. Nav also trying to work out how to sell this idea of baking this to his kids. I'm like, I think I'm going to call it, and I'm like,
Little Snails.
Yeah, don't call it Little Snails. Just call it the Swedish cardamom and cinnamon roll, and go, hey kids, you can learn.
Yeah. Why not school your kids in how to speak Swedish? It's going to come in handy.
Now,
they too might grow up to be chefs.
Before we get to the judging, just very quickly, Nerman rotates his badges every week. I do want to bring attention to the fact that he was wearing the Progress Pride flag badge this week, which is very nice. And
very nice.
And again, we don't, obviously we don't get political, but bullshit, we don't get political here. We get very fucking political.
Yeah,
and if you support the current anti-discrimination bill, don't.
No, your rights are already protected.
Yeah, the churches are already protected already. What's not protected is, trans kids. So, let's not, people.
Gender non-conforming kids.
Let's not. Anyway, to the judging. Yeah, this is where you can judge. This is where you can judge. Where you shouldn't judge, trans kids. What you should judge, bakes. So, Nav, they said it absolutely looked amazing. It was fluffy on the inside. It had perfect flavour. That's the first one. So, Ella, they said the cinnamon was very good, and it eats very well.
Yep.
Hoda's, they said, it was a bit dark and heavy, and they couldn't work out why it was dark. Then they went, there was a bit too much cinnamon in that. Like, no shit. Jawin, flat, and they said it was very flat. They said the spice would have been better if it had been higher as a bake. Haydn, they said it was...
we know why Jawin's was flat.
Yes.
Climate change.
Climate change hit. Haydn's was great, but they said it was a little bit underbaked. Now, Aaron's, surprisingly, they said, was risen well. It was well proved and really good. And, like, Aaron threw that together last minute. He didn't get to prove it. He didn't get to mix it properly.
I am so sure before this episode, Aaron is just, like, making offerings to Demeter and other baking gods. Just, you know...
I know, it was...
he was so blessed.
Like, unbelievable. I'm like...
You know.
And just Aaron's looking at it going, uh-huh. And that's what you always do. They go, that's an amazing bake. You go,
Thank you.
Yeah, again, I had assignments at university where I did them absolutely last minute and I'm getting really, really, really ridiculously high marks and comments like, you must have spent a long time on this. And I'm like,
by a long
sure.
time.
By a long time, the one that I got that on...
the second a long time? Because relatively, this is an even longer time.
Well, the one that I got that on at uni where they said you must have spent a long time on this,
Yeah.
I'd started the assignment at 12 o'clock. It was due at 3 o'clock.
Oh.
So I'd spent a long time on
Voila.
that. And I had to get to the university and put it in the assignment box too.
Shit.
Yeah.
That is hardcore.
Yeah, if you ever want someone who wrote a really good report on the Bly investigation into the mutiny, come speak to me. Ash, they said that it was a bit too tight in the mix, and they also said that the oven was possibly a little bit too hot. Blessings had a slightly uneven roll to it. Carmel's, they said, was good eating, but they had no volume in it whatsoever. Nerman's was just a little burnt.
Just the tip.
So
Just the tip.
So Hoda's was 10th. Ash's was 9th. Jawin's was 8th. 7th was Carmel. 6th was Blessing. 5th was Haydn. 4th was Nerman. 3rd was Aaron. 2nd was Ella. And 1st was Nav, who led us all off to start with. So the first two bakes they tasted were 1 and 2.
Yeah, and look, when it was... Wasn't it lovely just knowing, like going to the discussion, you know, between, you know, the technical and the showstopper. It was very clear that there were going to be like just this discussion surrounded by star bakers because there was no clear who's going home.
Well, they did say they thought that Ash, Blessing, and Hoda were all probably...
Oh, true, yeah.
...in some form of danger. But they also pointed out that the three that were probably at the top this week were at the bottom last week.
Yeah.
And that was true. It had sort of flipped a little bit. So, the showstopper.
Catched you on the flippity flip.
The showstopper. Gardenscape focaccias.
Yes, I believe this is Maggie's follow-up to the chandelier that will be decorating her dojo.
Yeah, she's just trying to artwork.
She wants some artwork, maybe a bit of a Zen garden, you know, happening.
I like the idea that all of the technicals from here until the end of the show are nothing more than Maggie filling the house.
Oh fuck yeah! You know, she's whimsical like that. She's just caught the spirit of Jude.
Yeah, because she did say that she wants food art.
Oh.
Matt also reminded them about water content in vegetables. Now, while
he was very, very adamant about water content in vegetables.
Hey. Say what you want. Was he right?
He was right, but there was a lot of vegetable water content discussion from Matt.
There was, and also
he was almost as obsessed as Toby with Radon.
It really was. But here's the interesting part about this. So the interesting part about this was the challenge where the bakers really started to show how relaxed they were.
Yeah.
So they cut to Jawin, who's like, I killed the yeast, but that was yesterday.
And there we go, yesterday.
And then we had Hoda going, I'm doing my...
technicals so far away.
Wait a minute. Hoda, it's no big deal. And Aaron's like, oh, Hoda. Yeah. Not wrong. So Aaron was making his was inspired by sunflowers. It was inspired by the Van Gogh.
Is that how
yeah, it's Van Gogh. Van Gogh. Yeah.
Oh.
So, yellow and orange capsicums framed by Grassini as the actual outside border. And he also, most importantly of all, we talked a bit about a Haydn. Now, as we said, obviously, social distancing means that if you've got a sentient starter, it can't come with you.
Does that mean it should be Whitlam?
No. Aaron brought the starter. Aaron brought the mother gum.
This surprised me because most people give their starters cutesy names. Usually you'd think about it being like either the name of a young flapper from the 1920s, like Petunia, for instance. You know, she's a bright young thing that lives with Liam in Canada. You know,
I'm wondering if Aaron hadn't named the starter, because he did seem to dig around a little bit before he said the name. I'm wondering if he made it up on the fly.
Yes.
Or is this his drag family?
The Mother Gum.
The Mother Gum.
This started our drag family. You know, like everyone has the drag mother.
Yeah, this is the drag Mother Gum.
You know, this colony of yeast.
Look, we've talked about the fact that yeast is a living organism and therefore not suitable for vegan bakes.
So
but it is suitable for Drag Race.
So the next season of Drag Race Down Under.
Look, got to be better than what we saw last time. Hey-o! Anyway, moving on. We're not playing, folks, legitimately. Just a legitimate shot at Drag Race Australia. Moving on. Now, Nav was making a sun-dried tomato paste, which was going to go into his dough. That was probably the only mistake that Nav made in the whole episode. Flavour-wise, it was good, but rise-wise, it impacted it.
And look, when I was watching that, I was like, oh, this... Because you want the airiness in a focaccia. And that's... I was worried. I was worried at this moment. I'm like, have you flung your star? Have you shot your shoot?
No,
your shot.
It was a portrait of his daughters. There were tomato and capsicum with the garlic and pecorino cheese on top. Which, look, makes him a hero of mine.
Look... Yeah, the flavour-wise. I always think it's a bit risky for familial relations.
Yes.
To offer to put them in portrait form anywhere.
Yes.
You know, like, unless you're getting a professional artist to do something.
See, I always go back...
And even then, like, don't do a tattoo.
I wouldn't want to put a likeness of anybody in there. I'd be a bit too worried. I don't know if you remember the Spanish church... where the woman, the volunteer, you're laughing, so you remember.
She's gonna fix it up.
Yeah, she was gonna fix up the old frescoes and fix up the old paintings from medieval times.
Yeah, it's fine.
And like just smudged everything.
There's no difference.
It looked like a 4-year-old painted it. Yeah, that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going with this.
I was just worried. I was just like, Nav, like I know you love your kids, but is this an act of love? Or is this an act of... like...
Kids, clean your room or I'll screw you up in a focaccia.
I will make you orange and I'll put you in capsicum.
That was one of my favourite lines, by the way, in the judging. When they go to the judging and they're like, didn't rise properly and I'm not sure how it sat. And Mel's like, no, if you've got 2 orange children at home who love you very much. So... Again, Hoda was doing a dill and sea salt with a bit of carrot and tomato, doing the portrait of the lady. Jawin. Now, Jawin went with an ode to Canberra, which there were roundabouts, which is appropriate.
Look, Floriade, that's great, but Cockington Green, right there.
Look again. The other day we had the miniature worlds. He could have done Cockington Green there.
Yep.
Now we know, of course, that he's a public servant and from Canberra. Jawin, the opportunities that you had to recreate various attractions, mainly Cockington Green.
But the chandelier could have done the Cyclone exhibit at Questacon. Come on.
Like, where's Telecom/Telstra Tower?
Yeah. Did you know I got a free margarita voucher for that up there when I was 16?
A Telecom Tower?
Yeah, they had this thing. It was like a tourism booth. And you could press it and it would print you out a couple of free vouchers to get you to go to places in Canberra. Now, we were down there for a bloody gymnastic thing. So Mum felt sorry for me. So I'm like, let's go to this Mexican restaurant. I was 16 at this point. And I'm like, look, Mum, you can get a free margarita. Well, my mum took pity on me. And I can announce this because she's dead now. It doesn't matter. She can't go to jail. They can't jail her box of ashes. And I'm not going to sue her for it. I think it was great. I got to try margarita for the first time. It was... brilliant. This little Mexican cantina down there that we got.
First lot of midnight margaritas.
It was probably had about 7 p.m.
But, I mean, look, Black Mountain can happen at some point.
Yep.
And then obviously what Jawin did, there was a bit of Parliament House, but most importantly, as I said before, roundabouts. Nothing typifies Canberra more than the roundabout. I mean, look, if you get lost in Canberra, just keep driving in the circle. You'll be back.
Look, you know, it is. I do question their logic about putting roundabouts in Canberra, because they did have that law in place for quite some time that they didn't revoke till probably about a decade ago, where you could warn people as you were approaching a crossroads in Canberra by shooting a gun. Now, I shit you not, that was a law, and I assume it was for the heady days of coach carriages and crazy people on horses, you know, going, oh, I've got to go get some wild horses from the snowy mountains.
Why does this feel like a Bobcat law?
Probably was. He is that old, and he totally went, look, I'm trying to get myself down to Parliament, you know, to be my parliamentary self and be all bigoted and stuff. And I can't get there fast enough when people just don't see me coming at the crossroads. I'm just going to fire a gun. Make that law. And I
mean, look, if Bob Catter was to fire a gun in Canberra, it would be the least crazy thing that he's ever done in Canberra. Yeah, anyone who heard him in the debate over marriage equality would know it would be the least crazy thing he's ever done. Yeah. Haydn. Oh, before that, what Jawin's flavours I didn't mention.
Oh yeah.
Char siu, Chinese sausage, zucchini. Yeah. It was amazing.
Just
love the flavour profiles that he had. Now Haydn was doing it by hand because, in his words, he's a hardcore veteran.
Barbecue pork now. Pork buns.
Yeah. Anyway, as I said, Haydn was doing it by hand because he's a hardcore veteran.
Oh, yeah, like
his phrasing.
He's like the hardcore bakers out there are, you know, doing it by hand because they can just feel and it's the pure delight. And this is like, you know, when you see the science teacher at school getting excited because they're doing their science experiment, it's all going well, you know, people aren't setting themselves on fire with Bunsen burners, and, you know, like the organs that we're supposed to dissect had actually defrosted, unlike my school.
Where's he going to move past that?
He was just in his zone, making that gluten.
Now, we also have, obviously, Haydn's bake was obviously named after his independent folk album, Triptych Harvest Feast, which, it's a great album. I recommend it. I highly recommend it.
It's a heady journey through the later half of summer.
Have you ever heard anyone
harvest?
Have you ever heard anyone play the banjo lately?
No.
Part banjo, part ukulele. It's wonderful. Anyway,
all tin whistle.
Capsicum with stuff for the sun, herb fields, blueberry juice sky, beetroot bark, and basil foliage. And we'll come back later on when he gets into the science.
That's his folk band, like a name.
No, that was the album list. That was the track list. Capsicum sun, herb fields, blueberry juice sky, beetroot bark, basil foliage. That was the track list.
Yep, true.
For Triptych Harvest Feast. Anyway, can't wait for the tour. You have friends who are probably big fans of Triptych Harvest Feast.
Coming to a folk festival this year at the National Folk Festival. Just watch out, main stage, surrounded by Morris dancers.
Get around it, Rhiannon. Anyway, moving on. Blessing. Now, Blessing was going with her rainbow herbs and she was doing herbs and rainbow veg. Now, this is where Matt really got on his. Maggie goes, "Are you going to use all those?" And she's like, "Yep." And Matt goes, "You know, there's a lot of water in this." And she's like, "Yeah, I'll dry it out. Now, when she got behind time-wise, then later on, Blessing goes, "Oh, look, I'm not going to have time to dry them out." And at that point, I probably would have abandoned half the vegetables.
Yeah, look, I think, like, you know, you've got to make an artistic piece, but I think there was too much creation of potential material and not enough kind of, like, thought through the execution of it. Like, if she had a clear what she wanted to do, she'd know how much carrot and beetroot and whatever else she had there.
At the very least, slice it as thin as humanly possible.
Yeah.
To take some of the extra moisture out. Because some of the carrot stuff she was putting in was like halved.
Whoa, that's a lot of carrot.
There were large chunks going in as well. I'm like, just thin slice the top and put them on top as a decoration.
What she should have said, I'm making focaccia for Carmel's babies.
It would have made more sense.
The bunnies. Yeah.
Exactly. Another question for Carmel. Did the bunnies get the offcuts of all the carrot?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Can bunnies eat focaccia?
Yeah, if you want to answer all these questions, Carmel, we'll update it next week on next week's segment of What's up, Carmel? Anyway, so Ash. Now, Ash was going with her garden bed idea because she was talking about, eventually I want to own a farm. I want to use all the produce. This is sort of my ode.
Here's the thing, right? If I go and check my lottery ticket tonight and I've won the 60 mil, it's fucking happening, eh?
Completely.
Going to happen.
So roasted beetroot.
Dreams can come true. I'll be like fucking Oprah.
Roasted beetroot, capsicum, pumpkin, and also she did some ladybugs to go alongside the rest of the garden.
Except I won't call my production company like my name backwards because it's weird. It's Eat Circ. I sound like an alien.
No, you now have to call it Eat Circ.
No, I don't want to be Harpo Eat Circ.
Harpo Eat Circ. Sounds like a Turkish Prime Minister. Harpo Eat Circ. Anyway, moving on. Yeah. At this point, Aaron and Ella were having a conversation.
Yeah, they were.
And so Ella's like, so how do you move the dough around so you don't beat it out? At which point, Aaron referred to it as like moving the fat cat that shouldn't be there. And I want to know, the moves they were doing. First of all, I'm sure the Fat Cat is the name of a burlesque club.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure I had the same instructions at my dance lesson the night before, because there was a lot of like, and then you pull it up and you twist and you fold it over, and I'm like, yep, that's what I'm doing with my butt.
Pull and twist and turn and fold and pull and twist and turn and fold.
Yep.
It was very much, and again, I like the idea that they're now planning a joint burlesque routine at the Fat Cat.
It would be great, and I hope that they just strip off bits of bakes.
And we know that Aaron can do a death drop.
Hell's yeah, he does the whole happy birthday, Mr. President, popping out of like the largest cake you've ever come across, but it's an actual cake. It's not this cardboard bullshit. Like
No.
Actually,
Tom can make a large one, and so there's enough of a divot we can hide him in.
And then Tom's really good at covering over the cream, so you'll never know.
You'll never know Aaron's there.
And we don't have to cut into this one. We don't have to do a cross section.
Exactly, so it looks perfect. Well done. Tom, get on that, please. And then, he jumps out, does a happy birthday to the president thing, and then death drops.
Yep. Perfect.
And that leads out to Ella, who's doing the roll and twist and fold. And look, the Fat Cat is going to go off.
Yeah. Nerman's going to be the MC.
Off. Look, how could we do this without Nerman? It has to be Nerman. There's only,
Jawin and Hoda coming in with the style and the quips from the balcony,
I want Nerman to be full MC, and I mean cabaret MC.
Oh yeah, the painted white face and the undershirt.
He's going to come out singing. He's going to come out singing the opening number too, every damn night.
Before Haydn just pushes him aside and goes, "No, this is mine."
And then
Haydn comes out and just does Chicago, a one man
Billy Flynn, and then it finishes off with Nerman singing "Mine Hair." Anyway, moving on. So, speaking of Nerman, he went with beetroot and onion, and then was oregano and rosemary as well. And he did again a floral portrait.
Oh,
it was very pretty as well. It was really well done.
I did like his colour palette choice, just doing all purples.
And then we got...
Prince wanted focaccia.
And we got a fascinating...
At 3 a.m. He's like, get me a llama and get me a purple focaccia.
So, that's off the back of the Kevin Smith story, if anyone hasn't heard it. An Evening with Kevin Smith, where he's talking about Prince. Mm-hmm. And Prince's assistant, when Kevin Smith went to work with him, said, Prince has been living in Princeland for quite some time now. And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, he'll wake up and he'll frequently go, it's 3 a.m. and it's in the middle of winter in Minnesota. I really need a camel. And they're like, what? Was it? And they said, no, he's not being a dick. I mean, this is a guy who can get whatever he wants. So he can't understand why you can't process a normally reasonable request of a camel at 3 a.m. in Minnesota in the middle of winter. He can't work out why you can't do that for him. So, again, the same sort of thing there. Now, at this point, they broke out into song.
Do you like baking focaccia?
Dum-ba-dum.
Getting, was it baking in the summer rain or in the cool summer rain?
Dun, dun, dun. And then there was another line there about brioche, and you're not into brioche, which you're not into brioche.
I'm not.
So.
I'm like, this is my song. I am not into brioche. I will take focaccia.
Guys, look, I mean,
love it.
As long as Rupert Holmes will give you the opportunity to take up Escape, the focaccia song, I recommend you do it. But speaking of heroes, not all heroes wear capes. Some of them are Italian.
Some of them own bunnies.
Carmel, you are my hero for the processed meats.
Did you ever know you baked focaccia?
I think she did, but anyway.
With a charcuterie board in my face.
So the garlic salami inside the little pull-apart bit, which, by the way, when we got to the judgment, the funniest part about the judgment was that Matt and Maggie had absolutely zero concept of a pull-apart.
You know this, Carl? It's a tear and share.
Yeah.
And I'm there going, surely they've been to a Baker's Delight, and then I've just gone, it's Matt Moran and Maggie
That's
Smith.
Maggie B.
Maggie B.
Maggie Smith.
I'm sure she hasn't been to a Baker's Delight.
I think there's more of a chance that Maggie Smith has been to one than Maggie B.
It's true. Like the only...
Which Maggie's been to which Maggie is more likely to have gone to a Baker's Delight? Smith or beer? Let us know in the comments.
What do you reckon they'd buy? A tiger loaf?
Who's there for the Vegemite scroll? Anyway, moving on.
Okay. The weirdest thing to come out of COVID was Baker's Delight whole, you can pre-order a pizza from them. You know those terrible pizza rolls they do?
Yes, they're horrible.
They're horrible. And you could pre-order it and go pick it up. Like, this is your innovation, not delivering home, but ordering a pizza. A horrible, bad pizza.
Then we got Science with Haydn.
Baking!
At which point he was talking about the pH level of the blue and the blue for the colour of the blueberries and how it would balance out with the other colour. And look, it was amazing, and the new Curiosity show will be amazing when he does host it.
Oh, absolutely. Who do you reckon will be his co-host?
The
bunnies. Carmel's bunnies. They'll be like CC the computer cat.
No, I think we need to bring back somebody who's not on TV anymore. I mean, I'm thinking possibly. I mean, Alex Paps isn't doing much these days.
That'd be great.
Paps Meister. I mean, Rebecca Elmologlu, I believe, is on Home and Away and therefore not being seen by anyone. James Sherry from Amazing, who's only seen MCing events at Melbourne Park and the MCG.
Look, I know Bevan from
Young Talent Time
has become a helicopter pilot for like the rescue service.
Bevan could be fantastic.
He could like chopper in Haydn, who's
Bevan Adamsall and Haydn.
Because he can sing and dance. Like it's all coming together.
Oh my god.
And they can rescue stuff too. They can help Nerman. They can be his backup people. They can be his backup crew for when he's out fighting vampires, you know. Hayden will be coming up with new ways of killing vampires. It's all in the new Curiosity show.
That's amazing. The new Curiosity show with Hayden and...
Adamsall.
Look, we'll say Bevan Adamsall and Alex Paps. They're going to rotate it. Because you need one host that's fairly useless, and that's Alex Paps. So... Ella,
we go on to find out Alex Paps has done a full neuroscience degree and is actually quite an intelligent...
So here's an interesting thing. So
Nobel Prize winning physicist.
Ella has set the bar so high after doing the first 2 weeks worth of bakes that she did an entire fairy garden focaccia and nobody batted an eyelid.
I know. And it's not like the sculpture in it was beautiful.
The bake was wonderful. The sculpture was beautiful. The story was amazing, and everyone just went, "Yeah, no, that's cool." Like you did the poo emoji, and we know you did boobs and a poo emoji. I liked then that when they were talking before to Jawin, and they were talking about all the bake, and they were like, "So what you need is," Claire's like, "You need a ScoMo, and you need a ScoMo and an onion Abbott."
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll work on that now. Then they cut to the time call. And there's Claire with a texter drawing on the capsicum doing the ScoMo with the onion sitting on the bench ready to go.
I assume there's an edit where she comes over to Jay when she goes, "Look, sorry, I ran out of time to do the ScoMo and the Abbott, but here's a Dutton."
And
she hands a potato.
Now we got to the point where they had to flip the focaccias, and that's always interesting to sort of watch. But thankfully, they all held. And most of them had a very crispy base on them. That was really cool.
Yeah.
I do like also, I don't know if you'll notice that weird looking stray dog on the way to the ad break.
Yes, just
was very
wandering.
Very blonde, very long haired, but very thin.
In the rose garden.
But very...
It was an Afghan.
Yeah, but even by Afghan standards, it was more elongated and thin.
Maybe it was an Afghan greyhound mix.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looked like a greyhound mix.
Like a
It was
whippet
weird.
and an Afghan got together and created this child of...
That's what happens when you got a whippet with a bum full of dynamite. Anyway, Jawin, they said the design was really good. The rise was really good as well. Had a very good crust. The flavour was outstanding and the dough was really good.
Yeah.
Hoda, they said heavy dough. Didn't get any height in her design. She had a really good crunch though, and the salt in particular was really well balanced, but the dill didn't come through. And they said, again, the height probably would have changed that.
You know what happened? She went on, it was dill or no dill.
Oh, no dill.
No dill.
Hayden.
Yeah.
Visually, those three were stunning, and it was a stunning scene.
Yeah.
Perfect rise, great crunch, perfect dough. How a focaccia should be, as Maggie Beer said.
And he really did flex. It was 3 fucking focaccias.
And
like 3 full-size fucking focaccias.
And I loved the close-up on Mel's face. It's like how a focaccia should be. She's like gnawing into the corner of one.
Like, Mel is all of us.
Now,
Thank you,
Nav.
Mel, for eating on our behalf.
Now, Nav said it deflated a bit, and they went, you or the bake?
Like both.
Flavours were amazing, though. They did say, though, that the sun-dried tomato was what made the dough too dense.
Yes. And orange children to console him.
Yes. Carmel, they said it was a very clear picture of what she was trying to do. Mm-hmm. They absolutely loved the tear and share nature, and they thought the flavour was incredible.
Yeah.
Blessing looked really pretty, but Maggie noticed very early on there'd been no rise, and it looked very damp.
Yeah.
And they said that, unfortunately, the flavours that she was trying to get in the dough just didn't come through.
Yeah. My heart broke. It was just, yeah... I love Blessing. I love watching her, and I really thought she was going to go far, but it is what it is.
So then Nerman's, they said, looked really pretty. The beetroot was really nice, the flavour there, and the flavours overall were really well balanced.
And Prince was happy with it too.
Ash. Now, Ash was in a bit of danger going in, but they said they loved the design. It cut beautifully. That crunch was the best crunch I think I heard all day.
Now, speaking of someone who, like, also flexed, like, that was 3 focaccias she brought out. And ladybugs.
Yep, and brilliant, and they said brilliant dough.
Yeah.
Ella's dough was lovely, the crunch was good, and it was a good story. And then they moved on really fast. And then they brought Aaron's out. Now, Aaron's looked incredible. Visually, it was spectacular.
Yeah.
It cut brilliantly. It had an amazingly good rise to it as well. They said the olive oil flavour was a bit stronger than you normally expect, but that's because he used sourdough, and obviously it latches onto the sourdough.
Yep.
And they said if you go from the middle, they said the sour's there.
Yeah.
They said overall, though, the layers were deep and deeper than you expect from a focaccia, and they really liked it.
Yeah.
So I think Starbaker was a hard call, but I feel like, given that it's probably been building up to this moment for Haydn, it kind of had to be Haydn.
Yeah. And
Nav and Aaron had amazing weeks, both of them.
But both Nav and Aaron had small flaws, like an unrisen focaccia for Nav, and Aaron's was in the first bake, and what was it? Because that's what I clocked. It was something wasn't quite 100%.
Oh, it was Baba Ganoush forward.
The Baba Ganoush. It was too much Baba Ganoush, and that was the kind of just those small things that have just, pushed them down just a notch. And Haydn rose to the occasion.
God. And unfortunately for Blessing, and she knew.
Yeah.
Like, she knew what was coming, and look, it was between Hoda and Blessing, and unfortunately the moisture in that focaccia was probably just too much to save it. It was probably close, though.
Yeah, look, I think something to take from this, though, is that you could see everyone was devastated to see Blessing go.
They were absolutely gutted.
I'm sure she was consoling everyone else. Like, she's like, I'm going. And they're like, yeah, but we're going to miss you.
But before we finish up, we just have to finish up with the last part, and it's probably the greatest punchline in the history of Bakeoff.
Yep.
Poor Blessing standing there. She's been crying her eyes out, talking about how sad she is. And Hayden's on the other side singing about being Star Baker.
I'm Star Baker.
And you just see Blessing give his look like, what? Not even who is that, but what is Haydn doing? And then she just starts laughing like, I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, no, that was beautiful, and just that little interplay was perfect.
I think the whole episode was absolutely spectacular. Everybody involved with Bakeoff, give yourself a pat on the back for that one.
Absolutely. Like, and you know, Maggie had it right. She goes, Blessing will leave here and continue forth as a baker.
Yeah, she's like, she will definitely show growth.
Oh, yeah. Like, she's 19, for God's sake.
Yep.
What was I doing at 19? Not going on a TV show and being a pretty bloody good baker. No, what was I doing?
No, you'd already been on TV by a couple of times by then.
Yeah, I'd been on Video and on Peru. I was just bumming around Glebe, really. Just bumming around Glebe. And
Fair enough.
Mostly Glebe. Doing 19-year-old stuff, getting ready for the millennium.
There you go.
I was 19 in 1999.
There you go.
Yeah. Did my first review that year.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's where I got my sketch on. It was called Pre-Millennium Tension. Yeah.
There was a lot of pre-millennium tension there too.
It was fun.
Anyway, post-millennium tension here. It's time for us to finish this up.
It really is.
So, thank you everyone again for listening. Thank you everyone for the feedback too. Lots of really good feedback on the last couple of episodes, including our interview with Tom. If you haven't checked out the interview with Tom,
do it.
Please go and have a listen. It was an absolutely brilliant conversation, and he is so insightful.
Absolutely. And like, you know, Tom, you know, had 2 weeks on a TV show. Was he the best baker in the shed at, you know, in those challenges? No, but did he just go in there and own it?
He
did. And he's a brilliant person to talk to. And yeah, just
So-
go listen.
We'll be back. Chances are before next week. I mean, let's face it, you've been listening for a while now. You seem to know how these things go.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say any more than that. All I'll say is we'll be back probably a lot sooner than most people would think.
Hope
And
so.
until then,
Wouldn't that be a blessing?
wouldn't that be a blessing indeed? Until
Yes.
then, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
And we'll catch you all later.
Y'all were ready for this. Do 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 do.